The consumer printing market is changing and fast.
So, without further ado, introducing the GK3 Pro.
So maybe like you, I was a little bit surprised to discover that the GK3 Pro wasn't a 30 kilo behemoth like the Ultra, but was in fact the successor to the incredible GK2. Confused yet? Don't worry. I've got you, because the more I think about this printer, the cooler it is. Hi, my name's James and this is Rising 8 Minis. The new GK lineup looks a little bit like this. You've got the base spec GK3, the GK3 Pro, and the much bigger GK3 Ultra. I assume the next generation will follow the same pattern, so maybe in 10 years time I'll be sat here talking about the GK13. Who knows? When I first heard that naming scheme it didn't make a lot of sense, but now the GK2 is gone, it does. What a great idea. I'm looking at you, Anycubic Frozen M7, Anycubic Frozen Mono M7 Pro. Oh, forget about it. I'm excited to talk about the printer. Size first. This one's a little bit bigger than the GK2 with external dimensions of 520 by 392 by 332 millimeters, and it weighs around 15 kilos. But the build volume is actually a little bit smaller than the GK2 at 211 by 118 by 240, or that's bigger than the Saturn IV Ultra, but smaller than the Hey Gears RS. The power button on the front is gone, which is a shame, but it does keep the USB port and the screen now flips up, which, as I'm quite tall, I quite like. It means I don't have to bend down to look at the screen. The screen and the UI though are broadly the same as the GK2's, but mine on this version is a little bit laggy, so I hope they fix that with firmware updates further down the line. But I like the GK2's menu and I like this one too. Flip it round and there's no more fumbling with the USB Wi-Fi dongles. Both models come with an integrated Wi-Fi, an external antenna and an Ethernet port. The transformer is internal too, which is correct. I'm looking at you, Hey Gears. Oh, and the power switch matches the lid, which makes me happy. Like the rest of the GK range, the carbon cartridge remains in place, which is nice, and I would rather have one than not. But honestly, carbon filters can do next to keep you safe, but it will smell less. Flip it back around and check this out. We've got a flip up lid, but a good one this time. It's got these side hinges which are nice and tight, which means you can position it at almost any angle, and it doesn't project too far up or too far back, which means it takes up less space. Practical and stylish. But it's inside the machine where those professional features really start to creep into the machine. I really hope we see more of this in printers as the year goes on. The build plate is the same from the GK2, which itself borrows heavily from the Form series of printers, which cost over 4 times what this one does. The plate is still compatible with your wash station, but there's a slick upgrade to the vat. It now locks in place with slidey latches. And get this, there's a slot on the side for mounting the plate sideways to use the vat itself as a drip tray. And this is what I mean about more professional workflows creeping in. It's additions like this that you would expect to see on much higher spec machines, where making the workflow better saves companies money. And it's really cool to see. I said in my 10-inch printer wrap-up that cleanup and workflow is the most important, then my pick would be the GK2. It's just so easy to clean. In fact, I'm going to go off one a little bit here. So many print manufacturers design printers that make cleanup harder than it needs to be. From stupid flat plates to ones with millions of columns to pour spouts that don't work and all metal vats with massive block heaters. You know who you are. Stop it. The GK printers have plastic vats, which sounds worse, but it isn't. It makes them light and easy to clean up. There's a chamfer inside which doesn't trap resin. It wipes clean. There's a pour spout that works. There's a drip tray on the side and on the plate, which reduces mess, which are loads of examples of design choices that make your life easier and, more importantly, less sticky. There are more great decisions. A sock-and-grate ball screw at the back. Ball screws are more expensive than lead screws and use ball bearings in a collar to adjust the Z movement. They're more accurate and harder wearing, so it's good to see one included. But my printer has some major flaws, mainly centred around that ball screw, I think. It's not been officially diagnosed, don't quote me on that. A bit of context. I only found out about this printer a couple of weeks ago, which is just not enough time to make a printer review. Add in the fact that Uniformation themselves are in Form Next, and all sorts of communication issues, and this just hasn't been well managed so far from my point of view. Which explains why this video is a preview, not a review. But all of this would have been fine, as I was supposed to receive a production unit. At any time I print models, my printer causes banding on all the prints.
Now, I am in touch with senior team at Uniformation about getting this fixed, and when I do, I'll have a full review and that'll come. But there's no way I'd put a video out into the world without at least letting you know about the issues I'm having with it. And so, if you're thinking about pre-ordering this model, do so on the basis that Uniformation have proven to be reliable in the past, but with a hefty amount of caution. Back to the preview.
Just to the left of it, you can see a little SD camera. An HD camera would be nice, but it does work for live viewing the printer and capturing time lapses. Oh, and there's a nice amber light inside too, so the camera actually works at night. You know when you're actually printing. Hella goo. The screen is another major step forward in terms of resolution, and as a big plus point, it's easy to replace too. Just 4 screws and a ribbon cable. When it comes to replacing the FEP though, there are so many screws. It took me an hour and a half to replace mine because the printer comes bundled with ACF film, which actually caused me a few issues, and so I replaced it for an NFEP film. Seriously, there has to be an easier way to do this. That screen though, it's a 16K 9.6 inch display with teeny tiny rectangular pixels measuring 14 microns on the x-axis and 19 on the y. In practical terms, I expect this to be on a par with the best consumer printers available right now, and we'll chuck out some banging prints. And so I'm testing this as fast as I can, and as soon as I get some results, I'll put that in the next review video. With the screen up, we can now see the Fresnel lens. Again, this is the same sort of light source that you see in the Haygears reflex printers, and it's the same UV wavelength too, 385 nanometers instead of 405 nanometers. Now, practically for most people that won't make a huge amount of difference, but what it will mean is that people printing with transparent resins, or maybe specialist resins that require very precise bandwidths and less bloating, will get a better result. Translation, yet more professional printers creeping their way into the consumer market and improving your print quality. And last of all, the defining feature of the GK series, that under-screen heater. If you're printing in a colder environment, a printer with a heater is an absolute game changer. And it's even more relevant in the UK where I am right now because temperatures dropped to -6 overnight last week. Oh, and here's something cool, if not new. The autofill system. It's the same autofill system that pioneered in the GK3 Ultra, and it's here too. And as before, you can either use Uniformation's resins, or what I'll be doing, which is purchasing empty bottles and using your own resins. But while I'm sure I will be able to get this feature working, as of right now, mine isn't. All the components seem to be working, but I can't get the autofill to actually function. I'm troubleshooting this with Uniformation right now, and again, it'll filter into the main review of the printer when that comes out on the channel. But I'm going to put my rose-tinted glasses on, assume they're going to get it working, and say that this is a cool feature. It's more complicated than the very simple and very effective system on the Haygears, but it's nice and it's tidy, and most of all, it's open source. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, thank you very much. You've already done your bit to support the channel, and I'd like to give you something back. All you need to do is sign up for my newsletter, and every month you'll receive a free STL file, courtesy of Mammoth Factory or other supporters. There's no charge to do so, and the link to sign up to my newsletter is down in the description below. So I'm excited about the GK3 Pro and all the potential it offers into the consumer printing market, with high quality parts, good prints, and the ability to use any software you like and any resin you like. Sure, there are trade-offs, and we'll talk about that perhaps in the review, but this could be the printer that you are looking for.
But there is no getting away from the fact that as of right now, I don't currently have a machine that can print good quality miniatures, which is, at the end of the day, what we're all here for. I am obviously working with Uniformation to fix the issue with the autofill and the issue with, potentially, the ball screw. And trust me, no one is more disappointed about this than me.
But I've been talking to Greedy 3D, Faux Hammer and Ground Affected about their machines, and they seem to be turning out great prints, so maybe go and check out their videos after this one. So I'm keeping my rose-tinted glasses on. I'm sure Uniformation will sort out the glitches in time for the next video, which will compare this one against its big brother, the GK3 Ultra. So I'm excited to know what you think about the machine. Are you, like I was, confused? I know when I first heard about it, I couldn't quite work out what was going on. And while features like light sources and ball screws aren't glamorous and easy cleanup isn't as exciting as a massive numbers of pixels or tilting VATs, trust me, they will make far more difference in making your 3D printing experience an enjoyable and simple one. You can leave all the pain to idiots like me. And I, for one, am very excited about the GK3 Pro and the future of 3D printing in general. Let me know in the comments which feature has you most excited, and I would really appreciate if you can like and subscribe to the video. It really does make a difference to the algorithm. And I'll close out by saying a huge thank you to everyone who's donated to my library of STLs on my Patreon, and of course my patrons themselves. You know who you are. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.